Hello everyone, and welcome back. If you're new here and you love true crime stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Today, we're diving deep into a case that sends chills down the spine of even the most seasoned true crime enthusiast. We're talking about Charles Cullen, a man who turned the noble profession of nursing into a living nightmare for countless families. Charles Cullen is not just any criminal. He's considered one of the most prolific serial killers in history. Operating under the guise of a healthcare provider, Cullen committed a series of murders that shook the medical community to its core. His case has been so impactful that it's been adapted into books and even a Netflix movie called The Good Nurse. But what makes Charles Cullen's case truly horrifying is not just the number of lives he took, but the manner in which he took them. So, why should you care about Charles Cullen? Because his story raises alarming questions about trust, ethics, and the very institutions designed to protect us. It's a grim reminder that sometimes monsters don't lurk in the shadows. They walk among us, wearing scrubs and a stethoscope. If you find this topic as intriguing as I do, give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Let's get the conversation going in the comments below. Stick around as we unravel the dark and twisted tale of Charles Cullen, the Angel of Death. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more spine-chilling stories like this one. Now that we've set the stage, let's take a step back and look at the early life of Charles Cullen. Born on February 22, 1960, in West Orange, New Jersey, Charles was the youngest of 8 children in a working-class Catholic family. His father, Edmund, was a bus driver who passed away when Charles was just 7 months old. Growing up without a father figure and being the youngest in a large family must have been challenging, but Charles was a dedicated student. In 1984, Charles took a significant step that would later turn ominous. He enrolled in the Mountainside Hospital School of Nursing in Montclair, New Jersey. Interestingly, he was the only guy in his class, showing early signs of his commitment to the nursing profession. But as we'll see, this commitment took a dark turn, transforming Charles from a caregiver to a grim reaper. Before we delve deeper into this twisted tale, if you're finding this story as gripping as I am, don't forget to hit that like button and share this video. Your engagement really helps the channel, and I appreciate each and every one of you. After graduating from the Mountainside Hospital School of Nursing in Montclair, New Jersey, Charles Cullen stepped into the professional world of healthcare. His entry into nursing was marked by an unsettling pattern that would continue throughout his career. He frequently switched jobs. Despite being fired from multiple hospitals for reasons including poor performance, Cullen managed to have a 16-year nursing career. This was partly due to critical lapses in the healthcare system, which failed to flag his concerning behavior. Cullen's early career was a series of short stints at various hospitals and healthcare facilities. Each time he was let go or decided to leave, he would quickly find another job, often in critical care units where patients were already in a vulnerable state. This pattern allowed him to continue his dark activities under the radar, exploiting the very system designed to save lives. It's a chilling thought that someone could navigate through the healthcare system with such ease, all while harboring deadly intentions. In June 1988, Charles Cullen committed his first known murder, and the setting was St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey. The victim was Municipal Court Judge John W. Yengo Sr., who was 72 years old at the time. Cullen administered a lethal injection of lidocaine, causing Judge Yengo's heart to stop. This event marked the beginning of a long and terrifying spree of murders that Cullen would commit over the years. What's particularly chilling is that he was able to commit this act within the confines of a medical facility, exploiting the trust and vulnerability of patients who were already in a fragile state. Cullen left St. Barnabas in 1992. Around the time the hospital was investigating a series of contaminated IV bags. But by then, the damage was already done, and Cullen moved on to Warren Hospital in Phillipsburg, continuing his dark journey through the healthcare system. Charles Cullen had a long and unsettling career in healthcare, working at multiple hospitals and nursing homes across New Jersey and Pennsylvania. His first job out of nursing school was at St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey, where he committed his first known murder. He then moved on to Hunterdon Medical Center, followed by a position at Morristown Medical Center. In Pennsylvania, Cullen worked at 5 facilities: Liberty Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, Lehigh Valley Hospital, Sacred Heart Hospital, Easton Hospital, and St. Luke's Hospital. His last known place of employment before his arrest was Somerset Hospital in Somerville, New Jersey. It's worth noting that Cullen was able to secure employment at these facilities despite being fired multiple times for poor performance and suspicious activity. This raises serious questions about the vetting process within the healthcare system, which allowed him to continue his dark activities for years. Charles Cullen had a chillingly consistent method of killing his victims. His modus operandi involved injecting lethal doses of medications into IV bags or directly into patients. The drugs he commonly used were digoxin, insulin, and epinephrine. These are medications that, in controlled doses, are used to treat various medical conditions. However, in the hands of Cullen, they became tools of death. This method allowed him to operate under the radar for many years. The medications he used were often already prescribed to the patients, making it difficult to immediately identify the cause of death as murder. Moreover, the deaths would often be attributed to the patient's existing health conditions, further obscuring Cullen's involvement. It's a horrifying thought that someone trained to save lives could so easily take them, exploiting the very medications meant to aid in healing for his dark purposes. Charles Cullen's victims were predominantly elderly and infirm, with most believed to be over the age of 60. They were admitted to the hospitals he worked at to treat their terminal illnesses. However, it's important to note that not all of his victims fit this profile. A 2006 report by the Philadelphia Inquirer revealed that he also had victims as young as 21 who were not terminally ill. Cullen's choice of victims raises ethical and moral questions. He claimed to have killed out of mercy, aiming to alleviate the pain and suffering of his mostly elderly and infirm victims. However, the fact that some of his victims were neither elderly nor terminally ill contradicts this claim and adds another layer of complexity to understanding his motives. Among Charles Cullen's numerous victims, a few stand out for various reasons. Helen Dean, aged 91, was one of his victims who died in September 1991. Loughren, aged 71, was another, passing away on January 21, 1996. Earl Young, aged 76, died on May 31, 1996. These victims were among the many who fell prey to Cullen's lethal injections. Helen Dean was an elderly woman who was already dealing with health issues. Loughren was also in a vulnerable state due to his age. Earl Young was another elderly victim who was under Cullen's care. These victims highlight the disturbing pattern of Cullen targeting those who were already in frail health, making it easier for him to carry out his actions without raising immediate suspicion. Charles Cullen had several close calls during his long career as a nurse, which only raises questions about the healthcare system's ability to identify such dangerous individuals. One notable instance occurred on June 15, 2003, at Somerset Medical Center in New Jersey. Someone used the computer system to order the heart medication digoxin, which was later canceled, but the drug went missing. Shortly after, a cancer patient went into cardiac arrest due to unauthorized digoxin. 2 weeks later, another patient was killed by digoxin. An internal investigation was launched, and Charles Cullen was found to be the common factor in 4 suspicious cases. Despite this, he was only fired for misrepresenting information on his employment application. Toxicologist Stephen Marcus warned the hospital about a potential poisoner on their staff, but hospital officials thought he had rushed to judgment. Somerset County Prosecutor Wayne Forrest had already launched an investigation, and detectives Timothy Braun and Daniel Baldwin identified an incriminating pattern in Cullen's actions across multiple healthcare facilities. Yet, Cullen was able to continue his deadly activities until his eventual arrest. Cullen operated at 16 healthcare facilities, often under a cloud of suspicion. When the pressure was on, he would simply move on to another facility. This highlights the systemic failures that allowed him to evade capture for so long. The investigation into Charles Cullen's activities began in earnest when detectives Tim Braun and Danny Baldwin were approached by Somerset Medical Center in 2003. The hospital had contacted the county prosecutor's office concerning several unexplained deaths. This led the detectives to recruit nurse Amy Loughren, who was possibly Cullen's only friend, to help them gain access to evidence that could lead to Cullen's arrest. Detective Sergeant Braun and Detective Daniel Baldwin began to suspect Cullen, who had worked at 9 different medical facilities throughout New Jersey and Pennsylvania, never staying at one for any significant length of time. They discovered that at each facility, an inordinate number of unexplained deaths had been recorded. Furthermore, 67% of these deaths occurred in the critical care units during the midnight shift when Charles Cullen was on duty. The detectives then investigated the hospital's automated medication system and found that Cullen had been removing unauthorized medications at an alarming rate. One such medication was digoxin, the same drug that had killed at least one victim at that hospital. Eventually, Loughren would confront Cullen about the alleged killings, and he would claim to have killed 15 victims at the hospital where he worked with Loughren alone. Amy Loughren was not just a coworker, but also a friend to Charles Cullen. When detectives Tim Braun and Danny Baldwin approached her in 2003 about the possibility that Cullen had killed numerous patients at Somerset Medical Center in New Jersey, she was torn. She didn't want to believe that her friend could be a cold-blooded murderer. Despite her emotional conflict, she couldn't ignore the red flags. Cullen had been looking at health charts for patients who weren't under his care just hours before their deaths, which was highly suspicious. Loughren had a heart condition but continued to work with Cullen while also gathering evidence against him. She even agreed to wear a wire to confront Cullen about the alleged murders. During one of these confrontations, Cullen allegedly told her that he was going to go down fighting. Eventually, he confessed to killing at least 29 patients by injecting their IV bags with fatal doses of drugs, including insulin and digoxin. Amy Loughren's role in the investigation was pivotal. She risked her own well-being and faced emotional turmoil to ensure that Cullen was brought to justice. Her actions led to Cullen's conviction in March 2006, where he was sentenced to 11 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. On December 12, 2003, Charles Cullen was arrested and initially charged with 1 count of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. The arrest came after a meticulous investigation led by detectives Tim Braun and Danny Baldwin, who had been tracking Cullen's activities across multiple healthcare facilities. The charges were specifically related to the killing of Florian Gall and the attempted murder of Jin Kyung-han. 2 days after his arrest, Cullen admitted to detectives that he had killed as many as 40 patients during his 16-year nursing career. This confession would later lead to more charges being filed against him. Cullen was not just facing the law. He was facing the culmination of years of suspicions, investigations, and the relentless pursuit by law enforcement to put an end to his killing spree. For his crimes, Cullen eventually pleaded guilty to killing 13 people and attempting to kill 2 others. He was sentenced to 17 consecutive life sentences and is not eligible for parole until the year 2388. As part of his plea agreement, Cullen avoided the death penalty and agreed to work with authorities to help identify other potential victims of his crimes. After his arrest on December 12, 2003, Charles Cullen was initially charged with 1 count of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. However, 2 days later, he shocked investigators by confessing to killing as many as 40 patients over his 16-year nursing career. This confession was a turning point in the case, marking one of the most infamous instances of serial killings in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Cullen's confession was not a simple admission. It was a detailed account of his actions. He described how he administered fatal drug overdoses to his victims, often injecting substances like insulin and digoxin into their IV bags. His confession led to further investigations and the reopening of numerous closed cases. Eventually, Cullen pleaded guilty to killing 29 patients across various healthcare facilities that employed him. This plea was part of an agreement to avoid the death penalty. Instead, he was sentenced to multiple consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. His guilty plea not only confirmed the investigators' worst fears, but also raised questions about the healthcare system that allowed him to practice for so long. While Charles Cullen confessed to killing 29 patients and was convicted for those crimes, investigators believe the real number could be much higher. Some estimates suggest that Cullen may have been responsible for up to 400 deaths during his 16-year medical career. This staggering number would make him the deadliest serial killer in history. The reason for this discrepancy between the confessed and suspected number of victims lies in the nature of Cullen's crimes. He was a nurse who had access to vulnerable patients and lethal medications. His frequent job changes and the lack of a centralized tracking system for healthcare workers made it difficult for authorities to catch him earlier. Moreover, Cullen's victims were often elderly or critically ill, making it easier for their deaths to go unnoticed or be attributed to natural causes. This has led investigators to believe that the real victim count is much higher than what Cullen admitted to. The hospitals and nursing homes where he worked have been revisiting old patient records, but the true extent of his crimes may never be fully known. On March 2, 2006, Charles Cullen was sentenced to 11 consecutive life terms in prison. This sentencing came after a tense and emotionally charged hearing where he faced the families of his victims for the first time. During this hearing, Cullen wore a bulletproof vest under his sweater and sat quietly as relatives wept and yelled at him from a lectern about 15 feet away. Superior Court Judge Paul Armstrong delivered the sentence, stating that Cullen had betrayed the ancient foundations of the healing professions. Cullen, who was 46 at the time, had previously pleaded guilty to murdering 22 people in New Jersey and attempting to kill 3 others. He was later sentenced for 7 additional murders and 3 attempted murders in Pennsylvania. The sentencing was attended by about 60 relatives of the victims, who called him trash, one pathetic little man, and an agent from the deepest depths of hell. Despite the emotional outpouring from the families, Cullen declined to make a statement during the hearing, leaving many disappointed as they had hoped to hear him explain his actions. The sentencing also had a broader impact on the healthcare industry. New Jersey lawmakers passed legislation protecting nursing homes and hospitals from legal action when reporting disciplinary actions taken against employees, a move prompted by the Cullen case. The case of Charles Cullen has garnered significant media attention, both in the form of news coverage and adaptations. One of the most notable works is the book The Good Nurse, a true story of medicine, madness, and murder by Charles Grieber, published in 2013. This book was forensically researched and served as the basis for a Netflix film titled The Good Nurse, which debuted at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 11, 2022, and was released on Netflix on October 26, 2022. The film stars Eddie Redmayne and Jessica Chastain and delves into the complexities of the case, including the systemic failures that allowed Cullen to continue his deadly spree. The media coverage and adaptations have brought the case into the public eye, sparking conversations about healthcare system flaws and the need for better oversight. In conclusion, the case of Charles Cullen is a chilling reminder of the vulnerabilities in our healthcare system. His actions have led to significant changes in legislation and hospital protocols, aiming to prevent such tragedies from happening again. However, the case also raises questions about the effectiveness of these changes and whether they are enough to stop someone determined to exploit the system. As we reflect on this case, it's crucial to remember the victims and their families, who have had to endure unimaginable pain and loss. If you found this video informative and want to stay updated on more true crime stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support helps us continue to bring you well-researched content. Thank you for watching.